You are listening to the James Carpenter Podcast Show, episode number 18. Welcome back to the final episode in a 5-part series, Why We Procrastinate. But first, I wanted to share with you that I'm opening up enrollment this week for my monthly coaching program called Elite Productivity School, and I cannot be more excited. It's where we learn to apply everything we talk about in these podcasts that we learn here and more. So the program start date is going to be June 1st, and there are more details at the end of this podcast. But back to this week's topic, why we procrastinate and how it can be a weakness and a strength. And so as we talk about this topic, I spent a lot of time thinking and researching all these different mindsets and these different theories out there. And so I want to start off by talking about what it's not. And here's some of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about this past week is it's the opposite of confidence in the sense that you don't trust your ability or capabilities. It's counteraction, actually. And it's not so much an issue of time management, believe it or not, because it actually goes deeper than that. Because each person, if you think about it, is able to distinguish time. That's not the issue. Whether you procrastinate or not, we know what day the end of the month ends on, right? Like we're in April, we know that the end of the month ends on April 30th. Like that's not the question at hand. We know that 5 o'clock is quitting time, right? Or whatever time you end work. Rather, it's this neglect of self-control or this self-regulation. You're not honoring you or your time. And this can include commitments, inside and outside of the workplace. It can be personal goals, whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, going to the gym, cleaning out the garage, and so much more. So hang with me here. If it's neglect of this self-regulation when it comes to tasks and projects, is there evidence of this further disengagement in other areas of your life, whether that's in relationships that could be, immediate partner or spousal relationships, workplace, family and friends, this disengagement in the sense that you prefer to go it alone, whether that's drinking when you find yourself alone, you find yourself hanging out, grocery shopping, or you're going to the movies by oneself. It's food for thought, something for you to think about. Studies show that by putting off starting a project until the last minute actually creates this surge of adrenaline. But this falsely creates a sense that we can do anything because your brain is constantly scanning your environment and taking in the information needed to help you survive, right? And if you remember, our brain is designed to be efficient, to avoid anything negative, and to seek out what's pleasurable. And oftentimes with tasks and deadlines, we have this reoccurring thought of, I don't know enough to complete the task or to even start the task. And therefore we hesitate, right? That pause sets in. We allow indecision to knock at the door and we cordially invite him in and we say, yeah, come on in, make yourself comfortable, stay a while, right? So that's what it is. Procrastination is inaction, right? And if you think about what is the root cause of this inaction? And for me, a lot of the times it's driven primarily by fear. But fear of what? It can be thinking and believing that we don't have enough information to get going or to even reach the deadline. It's this fear of landing on your knees rather than on your feet once it's all said and done, because we think that we'll be worse off, right? Or maybe it's this fear of rejection or of what others may think or may say about the work that we produce or about us, right? And here's the funny thing is when we procrastinate, oftentimes it's to avoid feeling a negative emotion or this negative feeling, but in so doing, we then feel badly anyways because we're not doing what we really want. Isn't that interesting? It's this disconnect between intention and execution. And if you think about it, like when you wake up in the morning and you leave for work, right? Let's assume that you have this garage, your vehicle is parked inside this closed garage. You get in your car and the door's in the way. Like you can't exit the garage because the garage door is shut. And there's that instant thought that comes to you where it's just safer to sit in the car. Like it's dangerous out there. And so procrastination becomes that wedge between us and our dreams, or between us and going, exiting the cave, so to speak. And we've placed it there. Like, and we're the only ones to remove it. Like we're the only ones to push the garage door button to allow us to leave and to go out. And, it's one of those things like in the workplace, if you think about it, where we'll oftentimes say, let's schedule another meeting. Like, I don't feel like we need to be, I don't feel good with where we're at. So let's schedule another meeting. So it's putting off the decision making, right? And here's some common examples that we hide behind that promotes further inaction. And I saw this quite a bit in the workplace where people intentionally, and like if nod with me, right? Like raise your hand if you saw this, where people intentionally avoided making decisions or coming up with the solution because they didn't want to be held responsible for the outcome, right? Are you with me? The outcome, if it went poorly, or other ways I saw this was for the negative image it could cast upon the reputation, right? Because of the unknown outcome of how others may perceive or respond to this answer or this offering, whatever it might be. But this type of indecision destroys relationships, right? And especially team camaraderie. Another excuse that we'll oftentimes hide behind is it's not perfect, right? And we got to get to 100%. Like that's what we tell ourselves. All the perfectionists out there, like it's not good enough. I can't put my name on this because, what will others think? And the lesson I learned from my coach is don't get it to 100%, get it to 80%, right? Get enough work, like do a good job and get it to 80% and then produce it. Like 80% is good enough. Because if you think about it, if we wait until it's perfect, we'll be waiting most of our lives. Because what we oftentimes will think and believe is the grass isn't greener on the other side. Like that's what we start to tell ourselves is, it's not worth it, right? And so we start to fall in this cycle where, it's not worth putting in the time, energy, and effort because it's almost this too elusive of a dream. Okay, you with me? And what we start to believe until you start taking action and until you start doing is then you come to this realization that the grass isn't greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you start to water it. Okay. Now, another common excuse that I came up with is this fear of rejection, right? This fear of failure, of feeling even more lost than where we started. And an example I have with this is, you remember the movie The Little Giants? Like there's that scene at the beginning where the kids were picking the teams, for the football. And the lead character, Danny O'Shea, in this movie, he didn't get picked, right? Or, he didn't get picked to go on a team. And he was asked like, hey, what's going on? Why didn't you get picked? And his excuse was, oh, I'm on the injured list this week. And so how often do we say, I'm on the injured list today? It's the same where the alarm clock goes off in the morning and you say, not right now, come back in an hour, right? And so procrastination can be a weakness when we find ourselves hiding behind these excuses and avoiding something because of how we think it's going to make us feel. And usually we think it's going to be some negative emotion or feeling. But the big question that I have is, what if? What if you were to remove this fear from the equation, right? How does that change your outcome? Okay. What would you do in lieu of not having that fear of being rejected or of what other people thought or, people's criticism? So let's pretend for a moment that we were able to control the situation, because we know that we can't, but that we can control fear being removed, because we can control whether or not of what we think about it, right? And here's what I want to ask you is, would you take those night classes to finish your bachelor's degree? Because that's what Tara's doing, and she's rocking it. Or would you ask out that person that you've been Facebook stalking? Would you sing or play a musical instrument in public? Think about it. Another way to kind of imagine it is, what about your future self a year from now, right? If you could communicate with your future self, and let's say that this future self of you is a year away from you today, what would they be telling you, right? And as I was thinking about this, mine would say, just get over yourself, just do it. And so oftentimes I'll hear people ask, as also, is it too late to start? I've been putting it off for so long, what will it matter? And here's what I have to offer when it comes to procrastination and opportunity is opportunity doesn't come and go. It's constantly present, right? And it's like in the movie Nemo, where Nemo's dad, Marlin, and Dory, when they were out searching for Nemo because he got lost, because he got taken, is they went with the sea turtles and they caught that ride along the East Australian current. Like, I had to look this up of what it was called. But Marlin and Dory, remember that current underneath the water, and they hitched the ride with the sea turtles along their way to Australia. Okay, you remember that scene? The point is, opportunity is everywhere. You just got to look for it and then hit yourself alongside it to get you to where you want to go. And so the question becomes, are you looking for it? And I want to offer you that you'll be amazed at what's out there. So again, more food for thought, something to think about. Now, in terms of how to turn procrastination into a strength, so for some of you, this might maybe seem like a stretch. So stay with me. So go with me on this idea, this concept of intentionally putting off doing things until a later date. Okay. Now, it can't be too far in the future. So let me give you an example. Let's say today is Wednesday. Okay. Are there things, items, tasks that you can put off doing that won't necessarily get you fired or in trouble, but that you can revisit at a later date? Like, let's say in a week. Okay. You go from Wednesday to Wednesday, things will come up. Can you put off certain items, tasks, notifications, follow-ups, whatever it may be, until a later date? And here's what I mean. By mindfully putting off certain tasks for a week, by intentionally procrastinating, so that when you revisit them again at a later date, a specified date, are they still a priority? Because here's what I've experienced. Many of those items will have solved themselves in that extended time frame. You know what I mean? All the while, no harm has been done to myself or to teammates or, family and friends, whoever's impacted or whoever's involved, right? You with me? And so instead of rushing to complete all the tasks and all the items that come across your desk, what if, it's that feeling like you're redlining it because you're just constantly going, right? Because when something comes up, you're like, okay, well, I got to get that done. I got to rush through this so that I can complete this. And then but like, there's always stuff that keeps spilling all over into your area, right? Spilling over into your plate. And so what if you purposefully focused your time and energy on the top priorities? Okay. Now, here's what I want to start turning this into is how we can start focusing on how this purposeful procrastination, turning that into a strength, right? And so here are 3 ways to do that. So number 1 is to create a list. Okay. What is everything you have to get done? Okay. And then you got to decide your top 5 things that you want to get done in the next week. right? Or maybe it's in the next month if a week's too short of a time frame. So you're going to prioritize that list. So that's step 2. So number 1 is create the list. Step 2 is to prioritize it, decide what your top 5 items are, okay, that you've just got to get done. And then alongside prioritizing it is writing down or deciding, like, what's your reason why you will take action towards completing it no matter what. And it's going back to the Little Giants movie, because there's that scene at the end of the movie when they were playing against the much bigger and faster and stronger team, and they ran the ball. And the referee, at the end of the play, the referee signaled 2nd and 9, and everybody was ecstatic because they celebrated because they gained a yard. And so the point is, gain a yard, go out there, get a yard, and then get another yard. Go run it, get another yard until you're moving full steam ahead, right? And then the third item is deciding what you can delegate, right? And it's one of those, imagine that you're holding, like if you have your arms out in front of you and you're holding these balls, right? Like those bouncy balls. Now, that can represent work. The one ball may represent the duties and tasks that you have to get done at home, whether that's dishes and laundry and, all the things that you've got to get done, right? So after a while, like your arms are going to be pretty extended and they're going to be full. Is there something that you can delegate? Can you hand off a ball to somebody else? Maybe a spouse, maybe a neighbor, maybe it's a kid. Where can you start to delegate some of the less menial, the less meaningful tasks to somebody else to lighten your load? Otherwise, balls are going to start dropping, and don't let that happen. So remember, you're the captain, my friends. You get to decide what to think, how you want to feel, and what you do. That's the best news I have for you. So good luck as you all journey along this life. Until next time, this is James Carpenter signing off. Hey there, if you liked listening to this week's podcast, then you should check out my Elite Productivity School. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all of these concepts and apply them to your life. Learn more at jamescarpentercoaching.com/enroll.